Unwind. The very beat of existence itself is contained in such a tiny word. You see, the majority of people pursue life as if it were something to be pursued, subjugated, and ultimately seized. Fearing that all will disappear if they let go, they clench their fists around time, force, early arrival opportunities, and hold their breath. But because they are striving too hard, they are unaware that they have already started to lose it. Because life is never drawn to desperation, it starts to retreat the instant you tighten, strive, or stress. Only in places of silence does it flow. You have to learn to do something very few people are willing to do. Nothing. In trust, not in indolence. In knowledge, not indifference. The kind of nothing that is presence rather than absence. The silence that is more perceptive than sound. In actuality, everything you desire is already en route to you. But while you're running, you won't notice it coming. Life is a dance to be joined, rather than a race to be won. Furthermore, you can't understand the music until you give up trying to command it. Consider water. It doesn't push when it flows. It doesn't fight or try. It doesn't push its way over mountains. It just locates the simplest route. It carves canyons over time. That is the power of relaxation. Strength without effort, not weakness. You are in the same situation. Your energy is not squandered in resistance when you are at ease. It is directed, channeled, and in harmony with your surroundings. And life starts to work together when you are in harmony. At that point, coincidences that aren't coincidences at all become apparent. People refer to you as fortunate at that point, but in reality, you've just given up fighting the stream. From an early age, we are taught that control and hard work are the keys to success, that we can achieve anything we want if we simply put in more effort, work harder, and move more quickly. Ironically though, most people are preoccupied with digging holes in the wrong direction, because control without trust is misery, and effort without awareness is chaos. You have to learn to let go. You've woken up, not because you've given up, because the more you push, the more you tell life that you don't think it will come to you unless you pursue it. What you think turns into reality. Thus, the paradox is evident. When you release the most, you get the most. Not by giving up, but by letting go of the desire to hold on so fiercely. Life was never intended to be grasped. It was intended to be grasped loosely, like a trusted child's hand. You become available as soon as you completely unwind, not just physically, but also cognitively, emotionally, and spiritually. Since you are no longer attempting to make things happen, you are open to advice, solutions, and happiness. You're letting it occur. What if you trusted the timing, rather than attempting to manipulate it? What if you sat quietly beneath the tree that was already growing for you, rather than continuously sowing seeds in a panic? Do you realize how much effort goes on behind the scenes in your life? Your heart beats, your lungs breathe, and your cells rejuvenate when you are just being. Are these miracles under your control? A flowing state. Everything else follows the same principle. Peace, prosperity, love, and plenty. These are not items that should be taken. It is important to pay attention to these truths. Take a look at nature. There is no competition among trees. Flowers don't work hard. The sun does not compel itself to shine. They just are. And they accomplish their goal in doing so. That nature is not distinct from you. It includes you. So why hurry when the tree next to you is content and certain? When the stars move silently and confidently, why do you feel afraid? It's not merely a matter of personal preference to relax. It is a global law. You're not retreating from life when you unwind. Along with that, you're sinking. Many people are never able to comprehend this riddle. You must be prepared to let go of your need for everything, in order to have everything. You know that what is meant for you cannot be lost, not because you don't care. There's no reason to pursue. There's no need to beg. You don't even have to keep asking. All you have to do is have faith that the current is moving you in the direction of your desires, rather than away from them. The only thing you have to do is unwind enough to float. The world tells you to put in more effort. Life tells you to take a deeper nap. Earn your worth, the world says. You were deserving from the minute you were born, life whispers. The distinction is minor, yet significant. One route results in fatigue. The other leads to all of your desires, arriving gracefully rather than noisily. So unwind if you really want it all. Let it happen. Leave it alone. Let it find you when you're ready. You believed it was already yours, not because you battled for it. A hidden rhythm can be seen beneath the surface when you examine life's operations closely. A cadence that is never hurried, never anxious, and never tense. Everything has an effortless elegance that doesn't require explanation and moves in its own pace. The river flows because it gives into gravity rather than trying to push its way through. The wind dances because it gives itself over to space rather than because it battles the air. However, humans have created a world that is fixated on labor. From an early age, we are taught that hard work is the key to success, that only those who work hard will be rewarded, and that we have to work hard to earn anything. However, although being firmly rooted, this notion is the very delusion that leaves most individuals feeling drained and hollow. Loud declarations or clenched fists are not signs of true authority. It comes silently. It is found in the person who knows when not to fight at all, not in the one who fights the hardest. Realizing that the cosmos does not react to force is what it means to relax, not to give up. It reacts to frequency. It is the strongest and clearest. Imagine a body of water when you are motionless. Nothing is visible beneath the surface when it is agitated. However, it reflects the sky when it calms down. Your life is the same. You're unable to see clearly when you are continuously disturbed by pressure, fear, and urgency. However, everything becomes apparent when you're relaxed. You become a reflection of life itself when you are at rest. Your body becomes a channel instead of a dam when you are at ease. Your energy becomes concentrated, exact, and sharp, rather than dispersed by fear or anxiety. Because of this, some of the most significant advances in human thought, ideas, inventions, and solutions occur not under stressful situations, but rather during quiet contemplation like taking a bath, going for a stroll, meditating, or even sleeping. Because your mind expands when you stop pressing, it opens up. When you're not attempting to pull inspiration from the sky, it comes to you. It appears when you make room for it. We have mistaken progress for movement. We think that if we are doing something all the time, we must be succeeding. However, motion that is not aligned is noise. It's the desperate flapping of wings in the absence of flight. Relaxing into the flow is not a sign of laziness. They are intelligent. They are aware that the river has a direction, and that resisting it would be a waste of energy. They get clarity by remaining motionless, and they move purposefully in that clarity. They save their energy for important times. They behave with purpose. They use measured language. They have a captivating charisma. Think about the lion. In the wild, it is not the most hostile animal. It doesn't rush around looking for food all the time. In actuality, it only moves when necessary, and spends the most of its time in quiet observation. Nevertheless, when it does move, it does it in a dominant manner. Its presence inspires reverence, because it represents power in repose. rather than because it is always moving. You are subject to the same principle. You don't need to justify your goals, establish your value, or seek approval all the time. Your quiet self-assurance speaks louder than any noise you might make. And you can only experience such serenity when you are freed from the delusion that tension equates to strength. People frequently believe that they won't understand something if they don't worry about it. Perhaps they don't care enough if they don't worry. Worry, however, is not love. Stress does not equate to dedication. Actually, it's frequently a symptom of distrust. You don't believe that life is working out for you. Thus, you tighten your hold. You micromanage. You exert pressure. However, picture yourself carrying a fistful of sand. It slips through your finger more when you squeeze it harder. You need to learn how to hold something gently if you want to keep it. That's the definition of relaxation. It's the skill of delicately holding life. Your intuition gets more acute when your neurological system is at ease. You make wiser choices. You steer clear of needless errors. You cease responding to little disturbances. Most significantly, since you are no longer living on the surface, you begin to recognize what really counts. You're grounded. You have a solid foundation. More than any plan, your presence is a true source of transformation. When your body is tense and your mind is racing, you cannot think your way into a better existence. You must develop into the type of person who is drawn to it by nature. And relaxation is the first step to becoming that person. Isn't that weird? That you have to give up attempting to reach your full potential in order to do so. That you need to go deeper into alignment, tranquility, and trust in order to grow higher. However, this is reality's conundrum. The more you pursue something, the more you convince yourself that it is distinct from you. Your subconscious will be more convinced that it is already yours the more you unwind. You don't go after air. Light is not what you pursue. You know it's your birthright, so you breathe and see. How might abundance function similarly? What if unwinding is a declaration in and of itself? I'm aware of my support. I'm aware of my guidance. I'm certain that I am sufficient. Living in a state of perpetual effort is not your destiny. The universe doesn't operate that way. Your body doesn't function like that. Your heartbeat is cyclical as well. Expand, relax, contract, and release. The same lesson is imparted by the seasons. Nature never rushes. However, everything has been completed. There is no needless strain or squandered effort. Just have faith, and harmony and beauty result from that faith. You return to that harmony when you unwind. You recall where you fit into the bigger picture of life. All of a sudden, life starts to work with you in ways that it never did while you were pressuring it. A person who is at ease has a very alluring quality. They effortlessly captivate people. They exude a peaceful confidence that says, I don't need to control anything to feel safe. And by doing so, they also give others a sense of security. It is impossible to fake this kind of intensity. It originates from a profound inner alignment when one is aware that everything is happening precisely as it should, rather than wishing. That's true power. The kind of strength that just is, without shouting. The kind of power that effortlessly garners attention, without demanding it. The moment you let yourself unwind, you start to carry a certain kind of power. One of the most misinterpreted behaviors in life is letting go. Many people believe that giving up equates to losing. That letting go means giving up on your goals and ceasing to care. In actuality, though, letting go does not mean giving up on your goals. It's about letting go of the barriers you've put in their way. It's about releasing the mental hold that prevents them from entering your life organically. You are unintentionally communicating to life that you don't think you're ready to receive when you cling too firmly to anxiety, fear, or urgency. As you put it, I don't trust this process. And life, which is always a reflection of your deepest convictions, pays attention and reacts appropriately. You've been trained to pursue your desires as if they were fleeing from you. However, have you ever observed that it never quite seems to work? Maybe you grow closer, but not without tension, without difficulty, and frequently without sacrificing your tranquility. What if that wasn't the only option? What if everything you've ever desired is waiting for you to stop fleeing and ceasing to trust, rather than hiding from you? You see, you cease pushing when you release your grip. Additionally, you cease generating resistance when you stop pushing. Then, out of alignment, rather than effort, what you want starts to come your way. Everything is driven by a silent intellect that operates best through flow rather than force. Consider how you breathe. You don't cling to the air when you breathe in because you're afraid you won't receive it again. You let out a breath because you know there will be more. That's how life moves, both in and out. Give and get. Attach, then let go. You suffocate if all you do is breathe in. This holds true in all facets of life. To make space for what comes next, you must be prepared to let go. It is not passive to let go. It's a strong statement to the cosmos. I am no longer attempting to dictate the path, control the result, or impose the timing. I'm open to being taken by surprise. I'm willing to consider anything even better than I had anticipated. And miracles happen in that openness. However, they don't manifest as tense thoughts or clenched fists. They appear when you are about to give up, when you at last acknowledge that even when you don't know the path, life does. The impossible starts to take shape in those peaceful places of acceptance. Something changes inside of you when you let go. Anxiety starts to lessen. You start breathing more deeply. Your mind becomes more lucid. Instead of responding to every challenge, you start to notice it. Instead of expecting everything to happen right away, you start to be interested in what is happening. You move from fear to faith. You can't fake this transformation. It has to be experienced. It has to be selected repeatedly. However, you start to see something remarkable. Once you start making choices, you get more when you release more. Choosing presence over projection is what it means to let go. You go back to what is happening, rather than worrying about what might happen. You take note of the beauty all around you. The subtle indicators that life is constantly on your side, rather than against you, such as observing shifts in your energy. Instead of living in fear of the future, you start to live in the present. The paradox is that when you start to feel the richness of the present, you raise your vibration to correspond with the things you have been. You create space for something to happen when you let go of your need for it to happen. Because the path is cluttered by your neediness, desperation, and fixation. The energy is blocked by it. It holds your wants at bay. People sense your desperation for love and distance themselves from you. Opportunities tend to disappear when you're fixated on money. However, you become magnetic when you relax into trust. You attract rather than pursue. You don't beg. Instead, you defend him. Until you are who you are. I'm as humble as a Hari, Habagot. Denying your desires is not the point. It's about having faith that your desires already exist in the realm of possibility and are approaching you at the ideal moment. You don't have to keep saying the same things over and over. You don't need to ask the cosmos for help. All you need to do is align your energy with the reality that already fulfills your desire. And the first step in achieving that alignment is letting go of the time frame, the how, and even the conviction that you have to work alone. Releasing the narratives you've linked to your value is another aspect of letting go. The notion that you must endure hardship in order to thrive, and that you are insufficient unless you consistently succeed. The idea that your worth is dependent on approval from others. You are burdened by these notions. They turn your desires from blessings into burdens. However, you start to feel free when you let go of them and those unspoken agreements you established through effort. And when you have that freedom, your desires come naturally to you. It takes faith to let go. It's stating, I no longer need to control this because I trust in something greater than control. And life reciprocates when you say that with sincerity. Synchronicities, unanticipated gifts, and an inner serenity that no amount of work could provide will become apparent. Not because your life is flawless, but rather because you are no longer attempting to hang on to things that were never yours. You will feel lighter. Strength is the ability to recognize when to let go, despite the common misconception that holding on is a sign of strength. It wasn't because you struggled for it or demanded it, but rather because you stopped trying to control the rain and let it replenish you, which made you still enough to accept it. And when you settle into this reality, the way becomes evident, not via hard work, but via grace. When you stop doubting the timing of your life, you experience a certain type of tranquility. Why hasn't it happened yet when you stop asking and start to believe that something bigger is still happening if it hasn't happened yet? This trust is not blind. It's incredibly intuitive. It's an understanding that even when you can't see the whole picture, the same intelligence that transforms seeds into trees and seasons into cycles is also directing your life. Trusting the universe's timing means letting go of the nervous clock you've created in your head and realizing that everything significant happens precisely when your soul is ready, not when your ego demands it. Many people suffer because they think their dreams are coming too late, not because they are unattainable. They compare their lives to timelines that were never theirs in the first place. They forget that no two trips are the same and compare their progress to others' accomplishments. However, the tension starts to fade as soon as you give yourself over to divine timing. Doors that aren't supposed to open yet are no longer forced. You cease sowing seeds and excavating them every morning to assess their development. Rather, you start taking care of what is here right now. And a peaceful knowledge results from that nurturing. Running away from you is not what's meant for you. It's on its way already. Time is not something you have to chase. Life doesn't need to be begged to go more quickly. What if the delays are actually protection rather than delays? What if you had been sidetracked from something much more significant by the things you believed you were missing out on? Waiting is sometimes the most loving thing life has to offer, because you become more refined by waiting. It teaches you how to see more clearly. Your impatience is broken down and replaced with preparation. You may have handled it improperly if you got what you wanted before you were ready. But you're not only prepared when the moment comes. There is something sacred about time, every morning, from the moment you get up until the moment you go to bed, even if it requires a monk or a lawyer. It has a knowledge that the intellect frequently rejects. The mind declares, I want it now. The soul says, let it come when it's right. The mind declares, I'm behind. You're exactly where you need to be. The soul murmurs. And you recall who you truly are, an evolving human rather than a final product, during those quiet, soul-led moments. This isn't a race to the finish line. The beauty of becoming is what you are here to witness. And it takes time to become. It's not hurried. It's not a straight line. Sometimes taking a step forward requires taking a step back. Sometimes gaining momentum requires remaining motionless. Sometimes the only path that gets you where you belong is what appears to be a detour. You start to feel more at ease in your own life when you have faith in the universe's timing. You quit condemning yourself for not being here yet. You start to view your path as art rather than a to-do list. Even in uncertain situations, you begin to value the process. Because you find strength you didn't realize you had in that uncertainty. You grow in faith that is grounded in relationships rather than outcomes. A connection to life itself. A conversation in which you state, "I'm willing to wait." When life responds, you're prepared to accept it. Busting the timing also entails letting go of the idea that you have to work for anything, thinking you haven't done enough if something hasn't arrived yet. However, this view is based on a misconception about the process of creation. Stress is not the source of the most potent manifestations. They originate from alignment. Nothing will blossom if the season isn't right, no matter how hard you work and how hard you strive. But when the timing is right, even the slightest action can yield amazing outcomes. A single word said at the appropriate time has the power to transform a life. One concept, one encounter, one choice. It opens doors you never knew existed when it arrives at the scheduled time. The cosmos is not late. It is accurate. It is thorough. It is far more conscious of your preparedness than you are. Even though you may think you're prepared, life understands when your intentions, energy, emotions, and surroundings are in harmony. It waits for that alignment in order to prepare you, rather than punish you, because the future is too precious to be squandered on an impatient version of yourself. Your complete focus, presence, and readiness to receive are all necessary for what is about to happen. Not in fear, but calmly. You start to see your past in a different light in this trusting environment. You come to the conclusion that nothing broke down. They slid into position. The location you required, not the one you anticipated. Your entire narrative abruptly shifts as you begin to see the delays as design, the setbacks as setups, and the waiting as weaving. It's no longer a story of misbehavior and wasted time. It's a tale of flawless development, a tale in which each rejection served as a diversion. Every not yet was a secret gift. You were getting ready for a greater force with each pause. Everything has its proper time, a moment to accept and a moment to dream. There is a season for planting and harvesting. There are times to wait and times to move. You can no longer fight the silence once you realize this. Knowing that silence is not meaningless, you welcome it. It is developing silently beneath the surface, full of life and pregnancy. It doesn't necessarily stop happening just because you can't see it. The roots are expanding. The energy is increasing. The links are being established. And it's all heading your way. It's because you're trusting, not because you're pushing. You're transformed by this type of trust. You get softer as a result. It makes you feel reverent instead of restless. You don't ask for answers anymore. They are welcome. You are no longer in a hurry to fill every available area. You allow space to be revered. You start to care more about how profoundly you're living, and less about how quickly things are happening. And time loses its hold on you in that depth. The ticking clock no longer holds you back. The divine unfolding guides you. Observing the natural world has a subtle but profound insight. The trees do not compel themselves to expand. They don't feel jealous when another species blooms. When it rains late, or there are high gusts, they do not panic. They just stand. They only become bigger. They just have faith in the sky above them and the ground beneath them. And in some way, they become exactly what they were meant to be, without attempting to be anything other. You share that same nature as well. However, you've been trained to forget. You have been cut off from the very system that produced you, since you were a small child. You've been indoctrinated to think that your value is determined by how much you can produce or control, that you must outperform others, and that your destiny must be shaped by sheer willpower. However, no bird worries about its ability to fly when it wakes up. No river has any qualms about its ability to reach the sea. The sun doesn't try to shine brighter to compete with another star. and the moon never challenges its timing. There is a certain spiritual rhythm to everything in nature, a harmony that requires no explanation. You're not outside of that harmony. You are within it. The chaotic nature of existence is not the issue. You've been conditioned to live against its flow, which is the issue. Something in you relaxes as soon as you start to recall your connection to the ground, the cycles, and the elements that gently pulse around you. You give up battling so fiercely. You quit acting as though you have to solve every problem at once. You start breathing rhythmically once more. You start paying attention. You start to recall the sensation of stillness, while that listening, the kind of silence that is full of presence, vitality, and knowledge, not the kind that results from tiredness. You cease attempting to control every result when you acknowledge that you are a part of nature. You see that your blessings open according to their season, just like flowers do. A bud cannot be forced to bloom without being destroyed. A plant cannot be expected to flourish if its roots are dug up every day. Nevertheless, the majority of people approach their own life in this manner, doubting, intervening, and worrying about slipping behind all the time. But what's behind it? There is no haste in the jungle. Nevertheless, it accomplishes its goal, stress-free. By being, standing, reaching, receiving, and releasing, it fulfills its purpose. Everything has its time in the natural world. There are times for growth, and times for shedding, times for blossoming, and times for resting. You must also learn to let go of control, just as the tree lets go of its leaves fearlessly. Give up the deadlines that other people have imposed on you. Give up the comparisons that cause you to lose your tranquility. Give up the idea that you have to constantly demonstrate your value. Being worthy is not something you can acquire. It is something you go back to. Something you recall. Something you take back by realigning yourself with your true self. You don't have to make a name for yourself in this world. You've got one already. Long before you were born, it was carved just for you, etched into existence's basic energy. You have to keep that location in mind, and you remember it by listening, not by hurrying or exerting control. Hearing the silent voice inside, paying attention to your breathing rhythm, hearing the advice that everything you need is already looking for you, and that you are sufficient just the way you are. Nature never demands evidence. It doesn't defend or clarify itself. It simply is. Additionally, it teaches you the power of present. The tree is doing more than you might imagine while it is silent. Light is being absorbed by it. It's breathing with the planet. It is producing fruit, providing shelter, and generating life. Nevertheless, it accomplishes all of this without any drama, urgency, or deception. You can live this kind of life if you give up trying to be better than yourself. When you give up fighting your natural flow, you're not falling behind. You're not lost. It's not too late. You're right where you should be. You've been using someone else's ruler to measure your life, which is the only reason it doesn't seem that way. You've been hearing voices that take advantage of your self-doubt. However, you start to hear a different message when you turn down those voices and return to the language of the earth. Silence, breath, presence, and patience. A note indicating your punctuality. This is not an invitation to be lazy. This is a return to organic effort. The kind of work that comes from inspiration rather than fear. The kind of effort that comes from happiness rather than shame. The type of motion that is more like dancing than dragging. You don't need to push life when you are in balance with who you really are. It starts to move beside you, and you start to perceive the holy in the delay, the enchantment in the commonplace, and the sacred in the uncomplicated. It's not necessary for you to make things happen. Receiving is permitted for you. You are free to relax. You can have faith that your destiny won't miss you, just as the stars don't fall from the sky. Pausing won't cause your life to fall apart. Sometimes, the most effective thing you can do for yourself is to simply halt, because you recalibrate during that pause. You come back, you realign. The world will make an effort to persuade you that your efforts are insufficient. Things you have to constantly pursue, prove, and work hard. In actuality, though, you are already a living miracle. Your breath is a gift. It is a blessing that you exist. And once you understand that you are life, you don't need to pursue it. When you keep in mind that your own soul serves as your guide, the sky serves as your haven, and the trees serve as your professors, you start living a life of surrender rather than worry, with trust, not fear, rhythm, not resistance, and everything that seemed unattainable starts to come closer, slowly, delicately, and exquisitely. You remembered who you are, not because you forced it, because you allow nature to remind you that you don't need to struggle to thrive. You only need to be. You also become all that you were destined to be. Much of our existence is governed by an odd paradox. The more you want something, the more it appears to elude you, and the more content you are without it, the more it finds its way to you. This isn't a cosmic punishment or a trick of fate. It is an energy reflection. Desperation is repulsive. The same things you're reaching out for are blocked by the kind of static it produces. You may believe that your passion is pure. However, if it is driven by fear, anxiety, or poverty, you're advertising the absence of desire rather than the want itself. Furthermore, neither your wishes nor your words have any effect on the cosmos. It reacts to your emotional state. Being at ease is more than just not being tense. It's the existence of trust. You're not just relaxing your body while you're at ease. Your soul is being opened. You're telling life that you trust your timing. I have faith that what is rightfully mine won't elude me. And your energy changes in that trust. It turns magnetic. The vibe that says, I need this to happen, or I won't be okay, is no longer coming from you. Rather, you exude a serene confidence that suggests, I'm fine already. And what's intended for me is on its way. This is the key that a lot of folks overlook. They believe they need to work harder, have a bigger impact, and work more quickly. They believe that in order to get what they want, they need to be seen, heard, and validated. However, they ignore it in the process, because anything that comes from desperation smells of lack. Furthermore, richness cannot be attracted to lack. However, calmness, peace, and a composed, grounded presence can. When faced with uncertainty, a person who relaxes does not give up. They're lining up. They are transitioning from a state of frenzied intensity to one of peaceful flow. And the impossible is made conceivable in that flow. This is probably something you've observed in your own life. It shows up as soon as you stop worrying about the message you didn't receive. Something shows up the day you quit checking your inbox or waiting for the phone to call. It wasn't that you stopped caring, but rather that you stopped putting up a fight. You let your vitality to wane. You allowed your vibration to increase. You became a match for what you were requesting as a result. You permitted the result rather than forcing it. People frequently believe that they will lose control if they stop worrying. However, worry does not equate to control. It's just noise. Clarity is also obstructed by noise. A relaxed person is not reckless. They are obvious. They are aware that the signal, which is their energy, needs to be consistent. Because chasing causes distance, they don't pursue. They avoid begging because it perpetuates feelings of inadequacy. They stand in silent anticipation, not haughtiness, but awareness. And that awareness makes room for things to happen. You attempt to control everything when you are in a dire situation. You think too much. You micromanage. You double-check. You read too much into every hint and every quiet moment. You are unaware that this emotional turmoil conveys a message that you don't trust the process and don't think it's working. Furthermore, life reflects back to you when you don't trust it. It turns into a labyrinth of lost opportunities and postponed blessings. However, as soon as you actually let go of that hold, you'll see that everything starts to fit together once more. Not because you put in more effort, but rather because you became a clearer vessel. Doors open, people appear, and ideas pour. Relaxing does not mean giving up on your goals. It's to properly nourish them. Picture yourself handling a fragile butterfly. You damage it if you hold it too firmly. If you gently open your palm, it might land there, fly away, and then come back. The same is true of your dreams. They don't have to be forced into reality. They must be treated with kindness, grace, and openness. They must feel secure in your company, and trust is the foundation of safety. If your energy is frenzied, you cannot build a haven for your wants. You have to develop into the kind of person that your dreams can safely reach. For this reason, people who exude calm assurance frequently seem fortunate to others. It's not luck, though. Alignment is the cause. They've mastered the art of not requiring what they desire. Yes, they have strong desires, but their sense of tranquility is independent of the result. The result is therefore up to the individual. It's not coerced. It is appreciated. This isn't indifference. This is mastery. They're already packed, and being full encourages more. Completeness draws other completeness. The same holds true for success, money, and healing. It will shun you if you pursue it with fearful force. However, you become a magnet if you accept your value and unwind in the knowledge that it is already yours energetically. You start to think, talk, and walk differently. You begin preparing for it as if it were inevitable and cease wondering if it will occur. That's the change. The miraculous resides there, in the stillness, not in the pursuit. A statement of faith is relaxation. It declares, I trust life more than I trust my fear. It reads, I know what I want is already seeking me. It states, I will not use stress as a strategy. And everything changes from this point on. Gently, the things you used to try to push come. Quietly, the things you once pleaded for come. Your reality becomes rooted in the things you once feared losing. All because you choose to allow, to soften, and to trust. Therefore, the next time you are tempted to push, clench, or chase, stop yourself. Take a breath. Do I move out of fear or out of trust? Do I allow, or am I pursuing? Am I sending anything away with my anxiety, or am I attempting to attract it? And go back to the wisdom of stillness if you discover that your energy is constricted. Go back to the strength of your own serenity, because there is a magnetic force there that is stronger than any effort. Your dreams have been waiting for an invitation amid that silence.